Live on time. That's so cool. Live on time, folks. Live on time. Hmm. If you can hear me, say something. This always reminds me of Pulp Fiction. She says, like, if you're alright, say something. Something. So, if you can hear me, say something. And then we begin the show that we deserve. Let me check the audio. Yeah, the audio is okay. So if you can hear me, guys, let me know. And then we will begin the show that we deserve. It's that good. The thing that makes everything better. The beautiful start to the day. The lovely, lovely start to the day. Beautiful morning. Right? Good morning. We are good to go. Miss Purva, thank you. Let's begin. I'm good on audio, LinkedIn, YouTube, and so we will begin. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, we've got to follow tradition, right? The sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together because it brings us good luck. It does. It does. We all get lucky. And here we. Oh, I'm sorry. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having green tea. And here we go. Oh my god, beautiful. Sublime. Let's do it again. Delicious. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? The simultaneous sip says that you're not alone, that we're in this together. And that's such a nice thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Lenskart came out with its FY24 report. FY24. So, essentially, what we were talking about, what I had mentioned, has already come true. It doesn't even need to go like a step further. It's already come true. I said that Lenskart growth in the article, this is like stated 3 weeks ago, I guess a month ago. In that article, I wrote that Lenskart grew 46% or some 38% last year, but that growth is gonna plateau. Okay, and when that growth plateaus, not if that growth plateaus, when that growth plateaus, uh, it doesn't make sense for Lenskart to get valued at $10 billion at all, at all. Now, my rationale was that Lenskart has a few peers. Lenskart has no direct peer in the Indian stock market, but there is Titan, okay? And Titan is a $5 billion company by revenue. Titan has jewelry biz, but also has the eye care plus biz, okay? It operates profitably at a margin of 5% net. Gross margins are heavy, and its growth is also above 30%. So Titan grows at 30% despite being like 10x of Lenskart, right? And what is the revenue multiple of Titan? Revenue multiple of Titan is essentially 5.2, something of that sort. Then you've got to go global with Lenskart because that's where its competitors are, right? So what do Lenskart global competitors look like? There's Luxor Exotica, which is the Ray-Ban Oakley company, the biggest company in the biz. It's just like a perpetual cash machine. Meta has tied up with it. Meta is a 3.5% stakeholder. Now, Luxor Exotica is a $25 billion company by revenue, right? 25, $30 billion. It has net margins heavy, and it grows 6% because at that scale you can't grow much. What is its revenue multiple? It's 5 or 3, something like that, right? Now, the closest competitor to Lenskart is Warby Parker, the Canadian company. Similar D2C mix, similar scale profile, $670 million, similar profitability profile, uh, less asset. I mean, much asset lighter than Lenskart because Lenskart has plans of opening its factories and so on and so forth. It has retail partnerships, doesn't operate a very asset heavy model like Lenskart and ops heavy. What is Warby Parker's revenue multiple? 3.3x, right? And let's say Lenskart now is at a $750 million revenue, $750 million, and it goes at uh, you know $10 billion valuation. So what would be the revenue multiple that Lenskart looks at? Lenskart will be looking at a revenue multiple of 12. 12. Does that make sense? Does that make sense in any part of the world? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And now, what I said about its growth slowdown, you know, 46% to 17%. It's already at 17% growth, man. So it's like maturing company, you know. Why, like, what's the basically profile here? Like, why 13x multiple for Lenskart? When Warby Parker gets 3.3, Essilor Exotica gets 5, Titan gets 5. Why would Lenskart get like a 13x multiple? So the company is clearly overvalued. And I had written in that article that if it gets IPO'd at $10 billion, I'll short it. I'll do a Hindenburg kind of a thing because it doesn't make sense. So, but shorting is very complicated in Indian markets, as you all know, as you might know. It's not easy to short Indian stocks. Very few stocks have that FNO option, and there is a time period after which shorting becomes even allowed. And then, the beautiful part is that intraday short is not a healthy exercise. So let's say you go intraday and you short that stock on an intraday basis, that's just playing with fire. But a good strategy with Lenskart will be whenever it IPOs, there's gonna be a bit of a pop because of all the PR and every buzz. And when that buzz sort of stabilizes at like 10% or something, that's when you place the short, because that's when the stock goes down, and it will go down because 13x doesn't make sense in any universe. Good morning, Mr. Patil. Good morning. How are you doing? How's Shoe Dog going, by the way? I had been meaning to ask you for the last 2 days, but I didn't see you. I hope the book is entertaining you in a lot of ways, right? Uh, that said, in continuation to another story that we discussed yesterday, was the cafe norm. Okay, it's going good. They are having second boy now. Oh, beautiful! Wow. So you're like moving fast with the book. That's really solid, man. Did they get raided by the Japanese tie-up and they started their own company? Yeah. Have they started their own company? Like they moved away from Japanese tie-up and begun their operations? Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Just keeps getting better now. Now there's going to be lawsuits and stuff. It's going to be very, very entertaining. Nike is now in the market. Beautiful. Very nice. Just let me know. Keep me posted on how you find the book. So yeah, yesterday we discussed cafe norms. Cafe norms are essentially the emission norms for the Indian automotive market, and they are basically cumulative norms for fleet emissions. So they are basically corporate average fleet emissions. So that's what they stand for, and they basically judge weighted cars emission per kilometer, like CO2 emissions per kilometer per weight, right? So Maruti had been lobbying that those weight emissions basically need to let go of small cars, because small cars emit less in absolute terms, and if they get clubbed with the big cars and with the per weight emission norm, even though they're emitting less in absolute terms, they'll be penalized and they'll be expensive. And yesterday I had said that the government might not support Maruti. uh, I was thinking about a prediction, and my first thought was that the government might not support Maruti as it leads on this cafe regulation, and it might just leave Maruti to fight for itself. That was my first thought. Okay, if you remember the yesterday's episode, you could go and rewind it. You'll see that I said it's very complicated what the government will do, and but my first instinct is that they won't help Maruti out of the way, right? I'd like to change that, by the way. So I did some thinking as far as the cafe regulation is considered, and I ought to think. I read the piece again. I read Mr. Gadkari's interview. I tried to do an analysis, and I saw, what if government just clearly throws Maruti in the bus, under the bus, right? What happens then? India won't have an entry level car segment without Maruti, right? So that's gonna be punishing the consumers, not just Maruti. When the consumers are punished, Maruti has a very, very big network of part suppliers, and a lot of people are hired directly and indirectly by Maruti, right? It's 40% of Indian car market, right? So the costs of not supporting Maruti are just too high for the government, are just too high. And then when I read the interview, Mr. Gadkari said that hybrids and CNGs and ethanol blended fuels and alternate fuels essentially will be at par with EV. That's what he signaled yesterday. So while cafe emissions might not look favorable to Maruti, the government will tweak it in a way where the small cars are not hurt. So I'd like to revise my prediction. Uh, Not really revise. This is the first time I'm actually thinking about it very strongly. So, India won't hurt Maruti as hard as it seemed like with the cafe norms. In the current state, cafe norms are very, very anti Maruti, right? And Maruti wants them to change. However, I believe that uh, they'll be tweaked a little to support Maruti, but not that explicitly. So that's the revision. So basically, small cars are supposed to stay. Moving on, uh, a lot of our predictions are coming to light and very well, very well. So banking industry, as I said, is bringing the stock market down a little. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how we talked about the banking industry and how it will essentially falter for the next few months before it gains ground, before it gets its footing. You remember, guys? I'm sure you do, right? That's what we talked about. We talked about the net interest margin play, some provisioning play, and so on and so forth. Axis results came out and they're not good, and Axis stock has fallen. Uh, and Axis stock is signaling an overall net interest margin stress, and not just net interest margin stress. Axis is also facing some provisioning stress, some unsecured lending stress, and so on and so forth. However, what's clear is that banking nifty fell and banking stocks fell, and now banking and IT both have brought the stock market down a little, which is exactly what we said. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know how, like, clearly we said this, that according to whatever is happening right now, what we can see is some near term stress in banking and overall long term stress in IT. And that's exactly how it's playing out. So, earnings reports are coming out, and banking is looking stressed, which is so. This is so great, right? That we sit every day, we talk about it, we discuss, we do some heavy analysis, and then we lay some predictions out, and then we watch how those predictions come prove themselves in the market, right? And we can't always be right, of course, but until now we've mostly been right, don't you think? Which is so awesome. Moving on, Reliance consolidated profit has risen 26,900 crores. 26,994 crores. I just rounded off 94 crores as it's a joke to me. I would love 94 crores. I don't have 94 crores, and that would be nice. So, not rounding it off, but I'd be happy to get it. So, Reliance net profit has gone up because of some exceptional gains. Can you guess what those exceptional gains must be? We talked about this. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. I will give you a hint. Asian Paints. Oh shit, I gave it away. So Reliance actually sold its Asian Paint stake, right? They sold their Asian Paint stake. So that was some thousand crores, many thousand crores actually, and yeah, 8,900 crores stake sale in Asian Paints, and then their consumer business also went up. So pairing the stake of Asian Paints and consumer, and also the geo platforms, they're growing. So Reliance is in a very comfortable position. Mr. Ambani says that now I have the performance of our businesses and growth initiatives gives me confidence that Reliance will continue to uh, its stellar record of doubling every 4 to 5 years. Doubling every 4 to 5 years means a CAGR of 12%. That's awesome. 12 to 13%. That's huge, right? So Reliance says that we're gonna double every 4 to 5 years. My God. Reliance Retail has grown 11%, and now Reliance Consumer is gonna go away from the retail. It's gonna demerge and form its own entity. It's gonna raise more money, go public. That's gonna be huge. So good times for Reliance. Good times for Reliance. Anil Ambani Group as well. Mr. Anil Ambani Group. It has been the case against the Anil Ambani Group for a 90 crore due has been taken away because it seems like they've settled it. And now Reliance Infrastructure is essentially going to raise 6,000 crores as we talked about. So good times for the Ambani group in general. They're coming up. Geo's PAT has grown like 25% again, So while IT and banking are taking the stock market down, some companies are, you know, keeping it alive. So it's not that bad. However, overall, Indian stock markets have slightly wavered about some less than 1%, but they've fallen. So let's see how the next few banking companies come out, because they have a lot of weight. So HDFC and ICICI and all of those people, they have a lot of weight in the stock market, the Indian stock market, and a lot depends on how they work, right? Mr. Patil says, how did Reliance never enter IT? Strange, right? Well, it's not strange, because Reliance, all these bullish years, yeah, but Reliance essentially had a lot going for it. It had the petchem business, right? The petrochemicals, the oil business. Now, oil is just nothing beats oil, right? Oil is just huge, huge. It didn't have to go into the IT services business, because let's say the biggest IT company is Accenture, $30 billion. TCS is a $20 billion company by revenue, or 15 billion, something of that. So Infosys is a $15 billion company, so TCS must be at 20 something. That's good, but Reliance has a lot of things working for it, and IT services would have been a very, very different play. So it makes sense that Reliance didn't try to enter the IT services business, because it has a very, very different, uh, you know, characteristic. The market is very different, and also the IT services play, when it began in 1980s. So all the companies that you're looking at right now of IT services, Infosys, uh, TCS, HCL, L&T, Mindtree, all these companies, Infinite, all of these companies are very old. They are very old companies. So they have a very, very entrenched presence in that market. And in 1980s, Reliance was not that big. Reliance was an up and coming player uh, in the 80s, in the early 80s, or let's say late 70s. So when did Reliance Group began? Reliance founding year. It began in 1966, and much of its growth happened in the mid 70s, back when it was a petroleum player, right? So you can imagine it was a lost opportunity for Reliance at that time. Moving on, EU fuels crude awakening for Nayara. So some complications are happening in the global markets, and those complications are about the petrochemical exports, the oil, crude exports coming from Russia. So, as discussed, uh, Russian and Ukraine conflict began in during Barack Obama's time. Okay, 2008 to 2014. That's when it began. 2012 to 2016. That's when the Russian Crimea conflict began. From 2016 to 2020, nothing happened in that conflict. 2020, Russia and Ukraine essentially began the fight. And when 2024 happened, when Mr. Trump came back, the war was already 2 years in, right? Now what's happening is that Western world, the NATO alliance, America, Europe, and everybody, they tried their best to hurt Russia in all this time, and nothing happened, right? Nothing happened. Russian economy stayed intact. In fact, Russia went into the arms of China, making it extremely, extremely bad for everybody else, right? Russia and China, if they combine, largest landmass, largest amount of people, strong economy, greatest oil reserves, and so on and so forth. It's a very bad news for the Western civilization, guys. So when they tried to hurt Russia and nothing happened, Russia got emboldened, and now it's going for the kill in Ukraine. It's not starting. and it's not stopping, and it doesn't want to accept any peace deal suggested by, let's say, US or Europe, and so on and so forth. So Russia is going for the kill. And now what's happening is that after Russia goes for the kill, all these people are essentially teaming up and going for another round of tariffs and sanctions and so on and so forth. So they want to pressurize Russia into stopping the conflict. And how they're doing it is by, uh, sanctioning countries and companies associated with Russia. Now, this is an especially bad news for India because Russia is one of the largest suppliers of crude for this country, for our country, right? And as Mr. Puri suggested yesterday, that if Russian supply stops, 90% of it, the crude will go up to 120 or $140. Right now it's at $70 per barrel, right? So India will be screwed. But what's happening is that all these norms and all of these sanctions and all of these financial institution banishing for Russia is being designed by EU and America. One of those companies, one of those, uh, you know, uh, companies are Nayara. Nayara is probably Reliance and Rosneft. It's a Russian company, and those two, that company is basically getting a lot of heat. So Russia, one third of oil imports, and EU has capped the Russian oil price, the ceiling, to $47. So there's a ceiling to the prices, right? That will the price cannot go more than $60. Earlier it was $60. Now it's going at $47. So it's gonna hurt Reliance, and it's gonna hurt uh, India in general. So Nayara is just a symptom of a much larger problem that India is facing, is going to face because of no end in sight for Russian and Ukrainian conflict. So that is a difficult situation. Let's see how that pans out. Because what the mistake what the Western world did was it didn't stop the conflict when it could. So US essentially tried a regime change operation with Ukraine as a proxy. So they tried to do what they have done in, like, let's say, Iraq or other countries, but Russia is not Iraq, of course, right? And that really backfired, and it's gonna backfire in a lot of ways, even for Mr. Trump. you know so speaking of problems, the pain reliever market has grown. So pain reliever market is touching $1 billion. People are buying off the shelves products, over the counter products for pain relief, a lot of over the counter medicines, and also the sprays and so on and so forth. That is a behavioral change essentially, uh, because such uptake of these products wasn't visible before the COVID era. So it sort of brought an inflection point to the whole market. So this is an interesting phenomena. This is also an investment opportunity if evaluated carefully. So moving on. By the way, Reckitt Benckiser, this Reckitt Group, is selling a lot of non-core businesses in India, especially to private equity players, so that it can concentrate on its core businesses that are Lysol, Dettol, and so on and so forth. So it was eyeing a higher valuation, something like a $4-5 billion valuation for those non-core assets, but it's settling for a little less. And also it's performance linked, so it's not going to get all the cash in the beginning. It's going to have to sell and then meet some performance milestones, and then it will be able to sell at that particular valuation. This is yet another sign of a slowdown, or let's say a problem, as far as the Indian consumption market is considered, right? Domestic consumption slightly problematic. So that uh, speaking of slightly problematic domestic consumption numbers and figures, the government is telling state-run banks to start up lending game. So they're saying that you're not lending enough to startups and MSMEs and so on and so forth, new companies, which is going to change, which has to change. You're going to lend more to startups. Government has asked public sector banks to lending to startups. They've been asked to collaborate with ed institutes and incubation centers to identify and monitor early stage startups. This is very important. They said that the country's biggest banks, let's say Bank of Baroda, Punjab National, and Central Bank, did not sanction any loans to startups in FY25. Zero loans to startup in FY25, the biggest Indian PSBs. This has to change, which is a welcome move. Now, why do you think this is happening? Of course, to stir the startup activity, right? But why? Why is that happening? That is happening to spur the demand and consumption, because startups will bring new activity, and that will create more jobs. Once they get better financing conditions for themselves, a lot of good things will happen for them, right? So, and for the economy. Uh, by the way, speaking of a very complicated conversation that we talked about yesterday, so we talked about Mr. Jaishankar going to China, right, and talking to Mr. Wang. Now, following his conversation, Niti Aayog has is looking for easing investments from China. The curbs, so Indian companies had curbs on Chinese investment in Indian companies. So India had curbs. Basically, they had said border sharing countries will go through security clearances before uh, getting a nod to invest in Indian companies. Now that has changed. They say the Chinese companies will be able to invest up to 24% in Indian companies without uh, security clearances. So this is what China got out of Mr. Jaishankar's meeting, right? But what did India get out of that meeting? India has got a Kadi Ninda from China. It has got some Kadi Ninda about terrorism. So China says they are against all sorts of terrorism, and that's what India got as of now. So I'm not mocking any effort. I'm just saying that it was a very complicated conversation. We talked about this, that it's going to be very hard for India to do whatever it's trying to do with deal with that China conversation. But as of now, it seems that it's China 1, India 0. Because who gives a shit about Kadi Ninda, right? Do you give a shit about Kadi Ninda? I don't. I don't. Moving on. Students on thin ice over new Trump law. Now, this is wordplay. ICE is basically their immigration control, whatever. So, yeah, immigration and customs enforcement. So Indians say that they're monitoring their social networking profiles and everything, and there's gonna be a tax on remittance, right? So they said that's a worry, and people are saying that a little bit of tax, a little bit of remittance tax means a lot to poor people, and I'm like, poor people? Since when did poor people start going to US for masters? Come on, come on. What bridge are you trying to sell us, man? Poor people don't go to US to do their masters. Come on, it's all the rich people. But yeah, remittance tax is a problem for India because India gets a lot of remittance money. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, how much does India get in remittance money? That is people abroad, Indians abroad, sending money to India. Do you remember that figure, folks? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Don't be shy. Oh, I heard you. Yes, $135 billion. $135 billion. And US said it's gonna have a remittance tax of 5% and then came down to 1%. People say that it's gonna be a bit of a problem, but then nobody cares about them, right? US is gonna do what US wants to do. Anyway, moving on. It says declared TRF a terror group. A lot of political chit chatter, which is best not discussed. Best not discussed. Uh, Whenever you want to feel bullish about India, whenever you want to feel very optimistic about India, uh, basically, when you read about politics and whatever is happening in politics and bureaucracy, you suddenly start feeling very sad and pessimistic about it. So you best not talk about it. But seems like the Indie alliance essentially is over. Aam Aadmi Party says they are not a part of the Indie alliance. It was just for the elections. Now, what signal does that give to the country? You know, they are hoping for a better opposition, they are hoping for a smarter opposition, and then these guys openly say that that was just for elections and, we are out. That sort of signals a lot of, uh, lacking confidence for people in general, right? We want a stronger opposition to do a better job and have smarter conversations. But apparently that's not happening. So sad to meet that. By the way, what is not sad is that the government is essentially helping the textile sector uh, with credit needs. So what they're looking at, because textile is a very labor intensive business, so textile hires a lot of people, and it's very good for Indian economy now because Bangladesh is getting tariffed on its textile exports. So India is gonna get India's textile sector essentially has a very big opportunity at hand right now, right? Exporting uh, textiles and through supporting textile sector. But the problem with textile sector is that it's very distributed. It's not a problem, by the way. It's a very good thing. That an industry is distributed, small and medium businesses having a good share. That's a very good news for the industry, because whenever things get consolidated, whenever things get, let's say, uh, centralized, centralization leads to efficiency, efficiency leads to job losses, right? When things are distributed, when small and medium players control something, right, a lot of people get opportunities. So the good and bad part with textile industry in India is that it consists of very small players. Now these very small players have credit problems, right? They don't have a proper system where they can borrow money, right? So they go for informal means and so on and so forth, and that probably hurts them. So what the government is right now looking at is basically a Sybil type scene for textile manufacturing businesses, small and medium players, very small, micro, small, medium players, so that their export value can be tripled in the by 2030. So how beautiful is that, right? But with every beautiful thing, the statement is always, "Why didn't you think of it earlier?" Right? Why didn't you think of it earlier? Why didn't you think of it earlier? Because textile always needed help. Textile always needed credit. Textile could have used better credit. So why didn't you think of it earlier? But better late than never, right? Sometimes things are not so obvious to people. A research is going on which is trying to establish whether daily smartphone usage, has any correlation with a person's mental and physical health. And I'm like, they're sanctioning millions of dollars for that research. You know how they can save those millions of dollars, right? Can you guess how they could save those millions of dollars? Or at least half of those millions of dollars. You know how they could save those millions of dollars, right? Please don't be shy. Don't be shy. I heard you. They could just ask me. So let's say they allocate like 2 million, 3 million for this research. And I'd say just save half of it. Just save 1.5 million. And I'm gonna give you an answer. Does smartphone usage hours have any correlation with mental and physical health of a person? Yes. Now give me those $1.5 million. Save those $1.5 million for yourself. And everybody stays happy, right? But unfortunately, they don't do that. They don't come to me for this research, for saving money on their research. But things are sometimes not so obvious, is what I mean. Even two people with money, things are not that obvious. Moving on, JSW's profit is doubled. JSW is killing it. As we talked about, JSW has a very interesting story which we've discussed many times, so we're not going to do it again. But very interesting story, and double profit. The only overhang is the Bhushan Power acquisition deal, which Supreme Court said was illegal. But lawyers are gonna handle it. And also, you can't like cancel a deal which happened 4 years ago and say it's illegal, right? So I think JSW is in a good spot, and yeah. So something, a developing story. We know about this. We've talked about this, and we could have seen this coming, but we didn't explicitly mention it as a prediction. Now that what has happened is that the government is hallmarking 9 carat gold. Now, why do you think government is hallmarking 9 carat gold? You can guess it, right? You can guess why government is hallmarking 9 carat gold. 24 carat hallmark, 22, 18, 14 hallmarked, right? Why are they now looking at hallmarking the 9 carat gold? Take a second. I'll take a sip. Take a second to guess why is that happening. Oh, I heard you. Because gold prices are up. Gold prices are up, due to which gold consumption is low, and the gold consumption goes down because people are scared. Prices are high. They're lending against gold. They're borrowing money with gold as collateral, but they're not buying gold. But the festive season is on the way. So they want to make sure that gold sells. And the bottom rung of the gold spectrum, the 30,000 rupee gold, like 9 carat, it wasn't hallmarked, which means it had an opportunity to spur the consumption. So now if this particular bit is hallmarked, it'll sell more, right? Trust gets established, it gets under the formal ambit, and to spur consumption, they've hallmarked 9 carat gold, which is beautiful, right? Which is beautiful. We should have seen this coming. Why didn't we predict this so explicitly? I mean, we've been tracking gold. We've been tracking what's happening with gold. We've been tracking the lending against gold. We've been doing it. We've been tracking the gold consumption going down because of the rising prices. Why didn't we see the hallmarking bit? Maybe because it doesn't make any direct impact, right? It doesn't make, like, how can you use this information to your benefit? Sure, it's good information. It's healthy to be able to predict something like that, but it's not directly beneficial, right? So maybe we just missed it. However, Jio is going up. Airtel is also going up. Airtel's results are going to be out during the weekend. You're going to see a lot of these companies coming out with their quarterly earnings. So by the weekend, we'll have a very, very good picture of the Indian stock markets, essentially where they'll go on Monday, right? IFC makes first equity investment in EV fleet platform, $20 million in Transvolt Mobility. So that's International Finance Corporation is looking for that. By the way, breather for telcos for paying 141 crore penalty over scam. Now, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, we talked a lot about this. We talked about the regulatory overkill that telecos companies are facing with the spam thing. We talked about how it just doesn't make sense for the regulatory overkill to bury the telcos when a lot of spam is happening on OTTs like WhatsApp, right? So a case has given some stay. 141 crore penalty over spam has there's a stay order on that, so they won't have to pay. Eventually, the government understands and it realizes, or let's say the courts, in this case the court, the regulators understand that it doesn't make sense to overkill. Now, does this mean that the government is going to take note of what we said that day about the TV industry? So we had a very big discussion on how the TV industry is suffering because of the regulatory overkill, right? No nudity, no explicit content, no, let's say, bad language, but all that exists on OTT. So people are watching OTT more, TV less. TV is dying because of unfavorable treatment to OTTs, right? In favor of OTTs. So basically OTT is getting favored more. So two ways of dealing with. OTTs also get the same regulation. right? And then OTT also becomes less attractive to consumers. That levels the playing field. Or TV gets those regulations out of the market. So, which way will the government go? Let's see. I guess it makes sense to let go of the regulations for TV, ease them out, so that TV can grow instead of trying to bind the OTT play, which currently runs at a on a self certification, thing. So OTTs have a self certification association where they essentially self censor themselves. But what if TV also got that? So instead of a whole censor board or whatever, TV board, it just self censors themselves. And then you'll see a lot of dirt on TV, but which will be good for uh, the industry, right? The industry. Because the dirt is not going anywhere. Dirt is coming your way. Not on Thinker's frequency though. We are very clean. As we talked about, there was one streaming Auntie G who was wearing a slightly skimpy clothes. Uh, Mr. Tushar Tiwari said the government will collect GST on that 9 carat gold also. Good government tax collection. Uh, but the gold sale was anyway getting taxed. Hallmarking has nothing to do with tax, right? Hallmarking is just a quality control thing. So you certify that this is, uh, uh, you know, 9 carats approved. Does that mean it was earlier not under GST? Well, I doubt it, but I'll have to check. You could correct me if I'm wrong. I just lost my train of thought. I guess I was talking about Auntie G doing a stream, but we have like 10 people right now. Auntie G had like 500 people, and she was like करे, isko share करे, like करे, and then people were sending her money on YouTube. So I saw like some people, like somebody sent 100 rupees, somebody said like 200 rupees. I was like, wow. So no dirt here on Thinker's frequency. Bad news for me, of course. Good news for you. It was under GST. What do you mean, Mr. Tiwari? It was under GST, right? So it was always under GST. That's what I mean. The gold supply. It's not like suddenly now it's basically a good move, regardless of GST. Speaking of good moves in plural, Maharashtra is pushing for online gaming ban. So Maharashtra is pushing for online gaming ban. Online gaming startups like uh, you know let's say Dream 11, Games 24/7, Probo. I recently wrote a report on Probo, right, where I talked about how it's just a sham, right? It's just a shameless sham. So they're driving people to suicides, man. Apparently, Maharashtra talks about rising addictions, youth addiction, and then a surge in suicides amongst people driven by under debt by these online gaming apps. So somebody actually, they killed their kid, they killed their wife, the guy, and then he killed himself. And was found out that he had a lot of debt because he was like gambling money on these online apps. So state is writing to the center that just ban these things. So what do you think about that move? Do you support it? Right now the government collects a lot of GST from these gaming apps, 28%. And they had given you know what the government had did with these had done with these gaming apps. What they did was, they said they've got to pay like 1 lakh crore in GST for all the years you worked before. So even before the GST was laid down, they were talking about a retrospective GST, 28% on all the previous transactions. That was like $10 billion or something. So these gaming app companies like, no, we can't pay that. So then they had a suit, and then the retrospective gaming tax went away, and so on and so forth, right? Sin industries need to pay extra tax. But what's this behavior? Like, I don't understand. You just allow a sin industry because it pays more tax. You allow alcohol sales because of tax money. Even though it's killing, I don't know. Moving on, Bandhan Bank is one of the good. Oh no, Bandhan Bank had a very very bad net plunge, 65% banking stress, as I told you. Indian banks Indian Overseas Bank, IOB, is one of the good ones. Weak bank IT earnings, doubt over US deal spoils Dalal Street mood. Well, we saw it coming before anybody. Moving on, a lot of companies going IPO. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bum 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 bum. Trump lands double blow to industries and countries with the tariffs. It seems like Mr. Trump is on a roll. A lot of good news happening for Trump. But there is a shadow of doubt of inflation numbers. Inflation has risen slightly, 2.7%, up from 2.4, uh, and that is raising some doubts whether he was actually absolutely right as it looks right now, or these things are gonna take a complicated turn. But for now, uh, Trump is on a roll, and China has issued quietly rare earth quotas. They say this much. They're basically rationing the rare earth supplies now openly. They say this is what you're gonna get. This is what you're gonna get. Not more than this, because what was happening was rare earth supplies were also getting used in defense sectors. So that's why China essentially stopped the rare earth supplies to countries, right? And now it's just openly sanctioning it. So people are, rationing it. So people are gonna be going easy, and they're gonna create their redundancies. Moving on, Russia has blocked WhatsApp. So Russia is essentially coming back at the Western countries. Uh, a lot of geopolitical chit chat, the which we'd rather not discuss, internal matters of US like the Epstein scandal. But a lot of these things, a lot of whatever is happening is leading to a crypto surge. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember a lot of Indian HNIs were looking at crypto, and they are right, because crypto has risen like 20% or something. Solana 6.5, and Bitcoin up, Ether up, and so on and so forth. So crypto is looking hot right now. However, I don't know till when this is gonna last, because as mentioned before, I'm not one of the crypto fan guys. So even though I bought crypto, I bought Bitcoin in 2017. So but I'm not a fan. So that's that. Moving on. Meta calls EU's AI code overreach, will not sign it. So EU had forced the AI companies to sign a code which essentially gave some protection to the copyright owners, because right now AI companies just scrape the internet. They don't care two bit about copyright protections, about intellectual property, about artists' works, and so on and so forth. They're training their models on everything that is on the internet which they don't own. So EU was trying to limit that, create some protections for the copyright creators. However, Meta is not signing it. And it's no surprise, AI companies will not be stopped with copyright as the play, because they won't stop. They won't stop at nothing, and nobody will even make them stop, by the way. So nobody will ask them to stop because of copyright issues. That is also set. So, all going well for AI at the moment. I hope I'm not missing out anything. Yeah, I'm not. UK is joining the Russian play. Germany is deporting a bit of Afghans, 81 people. Yeah, done. So, sorry about that. Somebody called me. I don't know why. They should know what I do at this hour if they know who I am. I hope it was not spam. I hope it was not telco spam, right? Which I've been supporting. And then I'm like, no, telco, don't give them 141 crores in, penalty support. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of 55th episode of Thinkers Frequency. That's what I have for you. We covered everything, and we are solidly on ground. A lot of our predictions are right. Speaking of something which needs an analysis, is that US, there's a research which came out which said US guys, American boys, American males in general, are going away from dancing. You know, American boys are not dancing anymore. Dance has gone out of flavor for Americans, and especially in males, because quote, uh, people think that it's gay. Suddenly, the perspective on dance has soured, because dance used to be a seduction technique, right? People used to really appreciate good dancers, and it used to be a way to impress females in clubs and bars and stuff like that. So people used to really appreciate dancers, and there was the John Travolta phase in the 70s, 80s, right? But and then it got renewed with the step up game, right? Just 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. However, dance has gone out of flavor. And with dance, what's gone out of flavor is uh, the whole aspect of guys trying to, uh, let's say, ask women out. So, guys are not making efforts, apparently, according to this research, uh, in luring women anymore. So, guys are not trying to lure women anymore. Pride month has just passed by, says Mr. Tiwari. Okay, so why do you think are males not looking at courting women as they used to? Is it because of dating apps? Is it because of commoditization of affection, of attraction, of uh, you know everything in that sort? Or is it because of capitalist driven, technology driven isolation amongst guys? They are busy with drugs, says Mr. Patil. Or is it because of drugs, as Mr. Patil says? And this is a very, very important thing. Beginning of the end of the road for America, says Mr. Perspective. Uh, Very true, very true. There's a lot of pessimism as far as the American story is considered. American exceptionalism doesn't look that exceptional anymore. But just think about it. Let's stick to the guys phenomena, because this is not just America focused thing. It's actually broader than that. Why do you think guys are not courting women as before, and what does it mean for the business and finance world? What does it mean for the dating world? What does it mean for the app business? What does it mean for, let's say, clubs and bars and so on and so forth? Mr. Perspective states, animals don't mate under stress. But do you mean that, where is that stress coming from? Is that stress coming from social networking, the technology ubiquity? Where is that stress coming from? And who gains and who loses with this stress? Because alcohol consumption is down, dance is gay, suddenly. Guys are not courting women, divorce rates are up, uh, people are not looking at marrying like they used to. Average age of home buying in America has gone from 27 in the 60s to 42 right now. So that's the age of first home buying for people in America, 42 years old, right? So where do these things fit? Because companionship is a vital part of the economics and finance play, right? That's how the world goes round. And if dancing is gay, and if people are not looking at impressing girls anymore or courting women anymore, what does it mean for the business world? With that, I leave you. Uh, that's some good food for thought, I guess. And I hope you had fun. I had a lovely time talking. It was great. And like that auntie's stream, I'd say isko like करिए, share करिए, subscribe करिए and stuff like that, but I don't do that, man. It's Read somewhere that point size is one of the reasons. Thanks. So, says Mr. Rajakumar. So, yeah, thank you for joining. It was really nice. And as I always say, what are my closing remarks for the day? Yes, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis, have come to the end. Right before we punch in, it's 9-2, we're gonna punch in. I wish you a beautiful day, personally and professionally. And I hope to see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Uh, See you. And Mr. Chirag Patil says, thanks. That auntie had a profound impact apparently. Oh, yeah, she changed my life. She changed my life. Like, I am doing this 55 days, and I have like 10 people, 5 people, 6 people on YouTube. Sorry, 5 people, 6 people, 8 people on LinkedIn, and 10 people on YouTube. So, at peak, I have like 23 people, 23, 25 people. She had like 438 people. I was one of them, and I watched that stream for 2.5 minutes straight. And I was looking at her, and she was like kare, share kare, share kare, like kare. And then people were starting to send her money. And like, why are people sending her money? And ekdam se, in the middle of that like kare, she said, thank you, Mr. Raju, thank you, Mr. Patil, thank you, Mr. Tiwari. And all people were sending her money, and like, so she did have a profound impact on me, but I don't see that happening to me anytime soon. And with that, I'll bid a goodbye. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.